Hello, welcome to another coffee break with Kardec. So grab your hot or cold drink, coffee, tea, hot chocolate, and let's talk about the book Genesis. And today we'll be talking about the apparitions of Jesus. And we know that, there's so many mysteries surrounding Jesus's life, Jesus's body, Jesus's death. But with the Spiritism, and when, especially in the book Genesis, Kardec brings to us, or help us to understand the spiritual laws that govern everything. And there is one particular chapter that talks about the fluids, the perispirit. I've mentioned that so many times. It is very important for us to understand the spiritual manifestation or the spiritual phenomena we see throughout the Bible and all other books regarding different religions. But talking about the Bible, and most especially the Gospel, we see that it's related there that Jesus appeared after being crucified. Then 3 days later, he was seen, first by Mary Magdalene. She went to his tomb. She couldn't find his body. She saw these two angels, and she asked what had been done of Jesus's body. And then he spoke to her. He appeared to her and spoke to her. And the way he spoke to her wasn't the way someone who was alive would speak to her. But that was very well described, because she went and told, many people about what she had seen, that Jesus was back. And then Jesus, again, he appeared to these two men who were on their way to Emmaus, a city at a certain distance from Jerusalem. And as they were walking along the way, these men asked to join them and engage into their conversation. They were basically talking about what had happened to Jesus, and they didn't recognize Jesus immediately. So they had gone basically all the way, and they decided to stop and have some meal. And because that person was so pleasant, they invited him to go and sit and eat with them. And they only recognized Jesus when Jesus took the bread, blessed the bread, broke the bread, and offered to them. Then they recognized he was Jesus. And then Jesus vanished, disappeared in front of them. And also there is no question about that, because that was very well documented in the Gospels. There are certain aspects or even phenomena, they are not very clear the way they've been documented, but these ones, they are very clear. They say exactly what more happened. And the 2 points I want to call the attention to are, first, it took them some time to recognize Jesus. Well, someone you know very well, someone you've heard talking before, and it took you some time. That always, called my attention. How come someone they knew very well and they couldn't recognize, walked with them a long way, and they only recognized when he broke the bread? And how come that? So these are signs that show that Jesus wasn't actually living a physical life as he was before being crucified. And there's another passage also, that when these two men, they quickly returned to Jerusalem to tell the others what had happened. And as they were telling the others about their experience, and Jesus appeared to them out of the blue. He appeared to them, and then he spoke, and then he disappeared again. And in some cases, when he appears to a small group of people. So if you ask, has anyone seen Jesus coming here? People would say no. Has anyone seen Jesus leaving the place? No. The door was closed, perhaps even locked. And then all of a sudden, Jesus is there amongst them. That's the way they report it, when they realize he is there. So these are clear signs that Jesus wasn't there in a physical body, in a fluidic body. Also, when he's on the shore and, the apostles were fishing and, he told them to throw the net in that direction, not the other direction. And then when they realized, they did that. And also they caught a lot of fish in their net. They couldn't haul that. It was so heavy. And then they realized, when he asked if there was anything to eat, they realized it was Jesus. Again, it took them some time. People who spent basically 3 years with Jesus all the time, they couldn't recognize him immediately. And why is that? Because when we have, and this is classified, this is very well explained by what we've had the opportunity to see in the previous coffee break about apparitions, about fluids, about the fluidic body, the perispirit. Jesus appeared to him using one of these natural spiritual phenomena that now we understand very well, thanks to Spiritism, thanks to the work that Kardec did, compiling all the information brought by the spirits. And we see many other passages there that somehow reinforces these explanations. And it makes sense. But then some people would come and say, well, but Jesus is Jesus. He is special. Why would he just use, natural laws to manifest himself before and after death? And some people see this as, sort of bringing Jesus to a lower level, because, well, what Jesus did was just apparition that we see nowadays. There are so many cases of apparitions, even materialization, where, people can touch. And there is the case of Thomas. Jesus said to him, touch my hand, because he said only when he touched his wounds, he would believe it was Jesus. And Jesus ate with them, had some food with them. And all that can be explained by apparition, materialization. Apparition, we know sometimes, the apparition takes place for a selective group, not for everyone. Just a few people can see that. And we see that in all this, Jesus actually, he chose when, where, and how to show himself. But when we have a physical body, we can hide ourselves. We can change our behavior. We can change the way we talk normally. We would have to come all the way to that place, be seen by many people. And because Jesus was already known that, and people knew what had happened to him, they would recognize him. And then, people would get around and say, how come? He died, he was crucified, and now he's here amongst us. But that didn't happen. He went straight to a select group of people, the ones he wanted to show himself. And he had, there was a purpose for that as well, especially those who would carry the message forward. But Jesus, the laws, the natural laws that we have, be them physical, be them responsible for the physical world, the integrity of the physical world, the explanation for the phenomena within the physical realm, which we know, a great deal, but we don't know everything. There's so much to be learned about the physical world. We know that we get information from scientists every day, especially now with this telescope showing us wonderful images of the universe, of the creation. And then we see, the more we search for answers, the more we realized we have, always more questions than answers. So, and then we have the spiritual sides that we know even less. the spiritual laws, we know, thanks to the spirits who gave the communications and through the mediums and brought all this information, in Kardec, who compiled them and presented them to us in the form of these 5 wonderful books that compose the Spiritism. And with that, we begin to understand. But what Jesus did wasn't something apart, outside natural laws. Because if God created those laws, and God is perfect, those laws are perfect, why would Jesus decide that he wouldn't obey those laws? On the contrary. So regarding his body, regarding his manifestation in the world in terms of a physical manifestation and even spiritual manifestation, he would follow the laws that are perfect. Why wouldn't he use them and manifest himself in a different way, not according to those laws? No, the laws are perfect because they've been created by God, and God is perfection. So Jesus wouldn't do anything but obey those laws. But Jesus, his mission was in fact on a different level. If we look carefully at his life, we'll see that Jesus was born deprived from everything in terms of the material world. Jesus wasn't a rich person. Jesus didn't have a position in the temple. He was always with the poor. He wasn't someone that had all sorts of material facilities supporting him, around him. On the contrary, Jesus decided to show the essence of his message, and the essence of his message was in fact through taking away all that wasn't necessary, wasn't in the essence of his message. Everything there was regarding material life, and it wasn't necessary for him. And he was born under very humble circumstances. He preached for 3 years only. He didn't write a word. And as I said before, he didn't have an important position within the temple, within society. He was always, how would I say, he was always looked at people, who were suspicious of him, saying that, he was doing the work or being the intermediary of the devil and so on. And his message, the essence of his message, he showed in his example. If Jesus had based his mission just on a few cures or a few, extraordinary phenomena, he wouldn't have survived the centuries. And as some historians says, Jesus was so important. These 3 years that Jesus preached here was so important that divided history into before Jesus and after Jesus. And then if we look at that, how come someone from a humble background, very humble background, who had nothing in this world, he didn't have a house of his own. Jesus didn't have a pillow of his own to rest his head during the night. He took away everything that was material to show us that the essence of his message wasn't material. His revolution was in his behavior and his teaching, because he is exemplified everything that he taught. Everything was exemplified. That's why he survived the centuries. Had he based his ministry in material things, he would have disappeared completely. He was crucified with criminals, and He was persecuted in so many ways. He was abandoned. Those who were with him, who loved him, abandoned him. They even denied him. So he showed that nothing was as important as the essence. And the essence is in his message, in his behavior. He talked to the poor, to the simple ones. He cured them. And he showed that the essence of their problems wasn't in their physical life, in their physical body, but was actually in the spirit. And the salvation, the real cure for the spirits of each and every one, not just the ones he cured them, but for each and every one, he showed the way. And he was the way. His message was the way. His examples were the way. And he showed that although we are in a material world and we can have the assistance of material things, the essence is and will always be spiritual. And that's the aim of our passage here on this planet. It's to be in the world without belonging to the world, but belonging to where we really come from, which is the spiritual world, and growing in us our spiritual moral essence, and not growing or accumulating treasures that thieves can take away, that can become rusty, and so on. He was very clear in his message. So, just to end our talk, Jesus used all the natural process to be in the physical world, and even to manifest himself after the death of his body. But his message was sublime. His message, his teachings, and his examples. And this is what really matters about Jesus, his message, and not his body or the material things he had around him. And he survived 2,000 years, and we'll survive much more than that, until the day that all of us, following his examples, will become better, even pure spirits. Thank you. That's what I had for today, and hope to see you very soon in another coffee break with Kardec.